Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we are talking about the spell Dispel Magic.
Oh, it's gone. I've been dispelled. I'm magical, as we all know. This is a third level abjuration spell from PHP. This is what I consider the bread and butter sanitation spell. Of all of the spells in 5e that you take because it's just good practice, Dispel Magic is the very number one on that list. So it takes an action to cast, 120-foot cast range. Basically, every class under the sun gets it. Artificer, Bard, Cleric, Druid, Paladin, Sorcerer, Warlock, and Wizard. So 8 classes get access to this. It's also an abjuration spell, which means Eldritch Knights get it. And it's also a spell that is in a bunch of different subclasses. People get access to it from different features down the road in varying subclasses. The thing's all over the place as far as like access. Choose any creature, object, or magical effect within the 120-foot range. Any third level spell or lower effect ends. For each spell of 4th level or higher on the target, make an ability check using your spellcasting ability modifier. The DC equals 10 plus the spell's level. On a successful check, the spell ends. This means if it's 3rd level or lower, if it matches the Dispel Magic cast, it goes away. If it is higher level than the Dispel Magic cast, you make a check that is very, very easy to beat. Normally, like if it's a level 4 spell, it's a DC of 14. On a success, the spell goes away. You're very happy with that. At upper tiers, the floor goes up, right? So if you cast a 4th level spell, all 4th level or lower spells go away. That continues to go up. The scaling of the DC also stays stagnant, though. So if you're using it a 4th level spell and you're hitting a 7th level spell, you don't get a bonus to your check because of your spell level. It's still going to be the DC 16 or whatever, and you'll have wasted the upcast. I wish Dispel Magic did a bit more than it does, honestly, just because I, as a DM, don't like... I use a lot of custom magic effects. I like magic to be rich in the world. I like to be mysterious. I like to be kind of all over the place. I am not afraid just to make shit up. Things are magical for the sake of being magical a lot of the time. I enjoy having big magical spaces. I let Dispel Magic work on a lot of those things, and I try and like compare it to relevant spell levels. So if there's an effect that, you know, is doing persistent damage to the creature type in some area or whatever, I'll compare it to other persistent damage effects like Stinking Cloud as a sort of going off point for letting Dispel Magic works. But outside of my specific tables, at tables that are using more DM toolboxing with the given spells, players, DMs that really run with the game as sort of written, as the adventure sort of pose it, as a lot of access of spells are both DM tools and player tools. This spell is unbelievably useful for everyone that gets it, regardless of class, because having a 3rd level feature that handles any problem, 9th level or lower as spells go, that is superbly useful.
All right, you didn't stop for a breath for a little while there. I'm wondering, what are you allowing it to be used for that wouldn't...
Non-spell effects.
Oh, non-spell effects.
Yes, anything that is magical is what I personally rule this can deal with, because I think that it's an important sort of lever to be able to, a little dial to be able to fiddle around with, is being able to play with more magical effects that aren't specifically written spells. I tend to say they're one and the same, but that's definitely a house rule, not 100% what's written here. This only currently works on spells.
Well, are you sure? I mean, the first line says choose one creature, object, or magical effect within range.
Yes, and then the next line of text is any spell of 3rd level or lower on the target ends, and then it has no other text beyond that. If you pick a magical effect that isn't affected by a spell, it is entirely unaffected by the text in here.
I'm not sure that's the case. That's I think the way I read that, the second line of text is a guideline for how to measure the magical effect. The first line, it doesn't say, or the second line doesn't say that it only deals with spell effects. That's just
it does exactly say that. It says any spell of 3rd level or lower on the target ends.
Oh yeah, sure does.
Yep, very much so. Directly says this only does things to spells.
All right, well then I'm with you. Yeah, on your interpret or the way you run at your table.
But again, rules is written. I think if you're at a table that's playing this with more rules as written anyway, the spell is equally as good there because your DM very likely is playing the more rules as written features. Is playing with more rules as written spell effects as their go-to toolbox to sort of challenge players and give them engaging situations. And things like Bestow Curse are actually like how curses work in the game. And that's Dispel Magic is a way to handle some of these things. That's pretty cool.
All right, so to be clear then, this isn't going to work. Like, it's not going to make somebody's magic sword not magic.
Correct.
Okay.
It will not. It doesn't suppress any effects. This isn't an anti-magic field. Anti-magic field goes beyond spells. That's why it's such an interesting idea. It's all spell of magical abilities. Nothing even, not just spells. If it is magic related, anti-magic field turns it off. Dispel Magic is not the same way. Dispel Magic specifically is more like Dispel spell effect.
Right.
I like it to be more Dispel Magical. That's just my personal preference.
So this the sort of thing this would work with is like I'm saying one creature. Are you touching a creature? I guess if it's invisible, it becomes visible.
It's also if it's paralyzed by a hold person, it's no longer paralyzed by a hold person.
Yeah.
There are going to be a lot of quantity of instances of encounters where someone will cast something and you won't have counterspell prepared for it. So like a hold monster or a dominate person are both great examples. A party member being conflicted by either of those conditions is debilitating. And having a way to take that off so the paladin stops hitting you is very good. And this does it for almost guaranteed. If it's 3rd level or lower, it is guaranteed. And if it's higher level than that, it is, you get a check. And normally you're pretty good at the check. So like, it's just an ability check using your spellcasting ability modifier. You don't add your proficiency bonus to that. Notably, it is a special kind of ability check. Yeah. So you still have to get, like, you still want to have a +4 or 5 to have a reasonable chance of consistently breaking these higher level effects. Ideally, you're on characters where you're building towards that direction. This is obviously going to be better on the full casters for hitting the higher level stuff. But sometimes you're a paladin and you have a +3 charisma and you're in the upper tiers and you're like, well, that 8th level Feeble Mind is utterly ruining our chances of our wizard being able to function. Go away, Dispel Magic. Feeble Mind might not be the great example. I think Feeble Mind might be only able to be removed by like wish effects. I don't remember its exact text. But some big, powerful 7th, 8th level, 9th level spell effect. Dispel Magic is just we have a chance. This is an opportunity to remove an effect that is otherwise utterly beating us. And that's really handy.
I do like how that all works, that the way they've got it set up where if it's 3rd level or lower, it's just automatically gone. But what I'm talking about more is the scaling. Like, if you've got a 6th level effect going, you got to make a choice. Or if you have those options available, I could use a 6th level slot and clear this away, or I could roll the dice.
Yeah, and it's often going to feel like a 50-50, right? On a DC like 15, 16, because you're not adding proficiency bonus to this, which I'm pretty sure you're not. Make an ability check using your spellcasting ability. Yeah, you're not proficient in that. So yeah, you'll be adding like a raw number to it, just a +4, +5, whatever your spellcasting ability modifier is. You're going to be taking 50-50 sometimes. And sometimes you're going to say, well, I really want access to my higher level slots to do more powerful stuff, but this has to end. You have a real cool, interesting question. And it's something that you were going to want consistently on your sheet. Even in like out of combat exploration, this is just very useful. Even if you're willing to say, well, we don't need this to stop right now, but I'd like it to stop right now. I'd like to be able to get through whatever magical effect it's suppressing the story. I don't know how powerful it is. I'm just going to throw a Dispel Magic at it. My DM's going to have me make a spell or an ability check. It might end, it might not. And that's a fair risk that you're taking whenever you cast a spell because it's baked into it. That's kind of nice to know about.
Yes.
And it also is, go for it.
Just saying, like so many times you the saver dies, you say, it's no fun when I cast a spell and it does nothing. This, I think, is an exception to that. It is kind of fun if you know going into it that you're gambling and you lose.
And really importantly, you have a means of mitigating that gambling, right? You have the ability to say, I could trade higher level resources for this for certainty. And that makes it a lot less feel bad to me. Because again, you're taking calculations. You're like, okay, I'm making this risk knowing these are the outcomes. I'm taking this, and it is an ability check, so you can get advantage on these things. So if someone can give you advantage with the help action, the Dispel Magic has more likelihood of being a success. That's pretty great, right? You can try and leverage it to be a higher chance of success, which is great. I think that this is something you don't necessarily want to grab at 5th level. If you're a full cast or a half caster, you kind of want to grab this at 9th level because that's like, it's around that. It's going to be great against the 5th level and plus spell effects that you're going to start fighting into because it's a way to fight the highest level stuff happening at any given moment. But you really you want this around the mid tier whenever you've got a spare spell known somewhere where you're not like deeply committed to picking up these 6 different things. It's a lot better on the prepared casters for that reason because you can just throw away one of the least cast 1st level spells you got. Stick this on your list as part of your your mid to upper tier magic, and you're like, yeah, that feels free. Whereas on your sorcerers, on your bards, you're like, oh, I've got very small opportunities here to make these trade-offs. I'm working with a very fine list, and I like the list that I currently have. It can feel harder to fit these sanitation spells on your list, but they are really important and really good, and I would recommend trying to find a spot to fit them in. Not necessarily at 5th level, but in a little bit higher than that, I would probably look to try and get this here.
Yeah. You got anything else? I mean, Dispel Magic, it does what it says on the tin. Yeah. Huh?
Yeah. I don't think it like warps. Yeah, it does kind of warp the game. It depends on what kind of tables you're at. You can, if you are DM, it is pretty easy just to say this is an ogre and it's got a really big rock, and that's still going to hit really hard. And this Dispel Magic does nothing. And that makes it like there is counterplay to Dispel Magic. It does have some windows of being good and bad at the same time. Catch-all solution to spells is really good. This is a reactive one as opposed to a more proactive one like Counterspell. I guess they're both reactive, but this is more reactive. You have to wait a whole round to be able to do the thing, and it costs you an action. So like,
That's ironic because Counterspell is actually a reaction spell.
yeah, it's it being able to get cast on things that have been around for a little while longer makes it a little bit more flexible than Counterspell. But Counterspell stops the problem from happening. Counterspell is it's not going to hit. The hold monster doesn't take effect. The dominate person doesn't take effect. This is the dominate person has hit us really hard for a round, and I'd like it to stop, please. So it is a little bit worse, I think, sometimes. It also has a lot more applicability out of combat, though, and that makes it, I think, comparable. I think this is probably a 4 out of 5. Very solid spell. I would recommend taking it whenever you get an opportunity to. I don't think you necessarily have to reshape how you think about the game. It's not the most busted thing happening at the moment, but it's really good. And it's being able to have a low spell slot solution to high spell slot problems is very handy.
Yeah, 4 out of 5 sounds about right. This one also makes me happy.
Great success.
All right, well, that was Dispel Magic. Commenters, let us know what you think down in the comments, and thank you for joining us. Thank you as always, Sam, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it, a gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.